Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode. And today we are visited by our guest, Dan Hansvick. And so we want to talk to you today a lot about cybersecurity. And we've got a deck that I'm going to pull up here talking about cybersecurity. And Dan is pretty much going to. Visited by our guest, Dan Hansvick. Oh, I'm sorry. I was hearing myself talk back to me somehow. We want to talk to you today
Okay, hold on.
about cybersecurity.
Fix that.
We've got a deck.
Excellent.
All righty. A little bit of technical difficulty there, but in any event, what we want to do is to go through this deck that we've got here prepared for you and talk a little bit about, digital transformation, where things are in 2024, and just going to have an organic conversation around all of that. So, Dan, if you could go ahead and kick us off here with the presentation, that would be awesome. Dan's got a little bit of problems going on, I think, with the camera there.
Dan, can you hear us? Oh, you may be on mute.
I want the double.
There we go. We can hear you now.
There we go. Now we can hear you.
But we can't see you.
Now you can't see me. That's
Yep, it's pointed away. We can see your laptop. There we go.
okay.
Perfect.
All right. Well, as long as that's working for everybody else, it works for me.
Okay. Can you see the slide on the screen, Dan?
I can.
Excellent.
We're all good.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and kick this off, starting about the top issues for transformation as it relates to security by design and just transformation in general.
All right. Boy, we are really having a...
So, Dan, when it comes to digital transformation, I know we've talked before about a lot of the new technology, but one of the common things that you have stated was around the risk with digital transformation.
Yes. I got a bit of a delay. Okay. Yeah, well, we've seen that, transformation, and you guys have also been talking about artificial intelligence. And we're seeing that that's driving the productivity and the cost reductions and better client reactions and the types of things that responsiveness and trusted answers that people need to get. And with many software development projects like this, the philosophy of I need it now seems to be pretty prevalent. And, this infuses risk into the projects in terms of supply chain and data integrations and software as a service, your AI models, and leaking data into the non-private AI public models. So a lot of concerns there are around, what is the risk for both transformation and supply chain? The factory 4.0, where you're getting suppliers and clients and everybody else on the same bandwagon and in the same communication. But how does that affect your cybersecurity? How do we do separation of duties for all those different components and make sure that we're on the same page? So there's a lot of firms that say, hey, I put this in the cloud. It's secure. Well, there's plenty of incidents of misconfigurations and lack of security in the cloud. The lack of segmentation and cloud misconfigurations are causing problems all the time for people. There's also tools available from different security firms. We're not talking about manufacturers here, to protect both, the cloud and the enterprise, to recognize changes in that environment, to notify when something is misconfigured, or open to the public, other tools that are constantly monitoring what's facing the public. And those are the types of things that need to be taken into consideration. Recently, there's been a whole bunch of additional tools coming out for API integrations from the supply chain type of a world of things to make sure that, the APIs that you're integrating with other vendor suppliers, clients are also secure. So what we want to make sure is that using those types of solutions that you embed security in your transformation, in your AI deployments, and in your cloud environments, as well as your enterprise. And what we're seeing is that a lot of the small and mid-sized businesses just don't have either the technical expertise, the capability, the time, or the budget to do everything all at once, or to do anything. And then a lot of them are also looking at, where do I start? So if you've got a transformation project and you need to include security, what are the types of things that you can do ahead of time? So we need to take a cue from that software development world where secure by design means embedding network identity, cloud, and application security right into the transformation. So comments, questions so far?
No, I mean, again, I always say when it comes down to talking cybersecurity, and I have a cybersecurity question, Dan's the man. So really appreciate you coming here today to provide your perspective to our viewers. And digital transformation is one of those things that, everybody likes to do because it's spending money. But the security is what ends up getting you fired, right? You may be completely successful and then get hacked 24 hours before you go live. So, unfortunately, we live in a world where it's not the happy path. You got to think about the negative aspect of whatever you're offering to the public.
Right. Absolutely.
Quick question for you, or maybe not so quick, but at least a question for you. So I do know that a lot of enterprises have centralized logging, typically use something like Splunk or New Relic, things of that nature. What are your thoughts around either hiring a company to come in and customize some AI process to comb over that data in some analytical way, looking for security perspectives, or in-house even writing something, since a lot of that data already exists there? Is there any value there in that, or are there other things that you're aware of in today's market that does something similar or even better?
Well, utilizing the data, if you have it, is great. And there's plenty of tools to take advantage of that. I'm going to hang on a second.
Everybody likes to do because it's spending money. Yeah, it looks like our streaming platform today is misbehaving. So our apologies for that. And then get hacked 24 hours. It's not the happy path. You got to think about the negative aspects of whatever. While Dan is going through that,
Right.
One of the things we want to talk about is really the security. Dan, can you hear us?
I do know that
can.
a lot of enterprises have centralized logging, typically use something like Splunk or New Relic, things of that.
Oh, man.
Oh, we lost Dan there for some reason. Anyway, let's go ahead and continue on with the next slide, Darren. We'll see if Dan can get himself situated.
But, one of the things that I really like to talk about cybersecurity is when it comes down to transformation, it cannot be seen as an impediment cybersecurity cannot be seen as an impediment. It's got to be a partnership. The risk reward with any kind of digital transformation has to be analyzed from the get-go. Dan, are you back?
I think I'm back, but I don't know if you can hear me.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. So, yeah,
So
let's
go ahead and slide, Dan.
Let's go ahead and go to the next slide.
Yep, we're there. Hopefully.
So the answer to your question is that, if you have that data, it's great to use it. There are a lot of tools in different firewall vendors or security vendors or the Splunks or log analyzers, your SIMs, those types of things. Take advantage of that. For the small and mid-sized enterprise, it's a little difficult for them to, justify that cost and find that expertise. So problematic on my side. I think that there are less expensive ways for the small and mid-sized business. If you're an enterprise business, then I think absolutely you should be using that data. SOAR, security orchestration, automation, and response technologies are fantastic, and they do a great job of tying all sorts of different data sets together to help protect the organization, to identify both what it is you're protected, and then notify when there's a problem. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no. Excellent, for sure. Yep.
Okay.
So I don't know, hopefully you can see our slide. We're on the impact of AI in your business.
Yep. So, a lot of the AI coming at the business today is because the attackers are using AI. They're finding the vulnerabilities. They're increasing the attacks on all businesses, and especially small and mid-sized businesses. And we're finding that, I think the latest net diligence report was 98% of the attacks are in the small to mid-sized business realm today. And that's because they're less prepared. They don't think maybe that they should be on the attack surface. They're too small. They're not. The AI is driving that. It's weaponizing the attacks at machine speed, and that can't be fought with human speed. You're going to lose. So, then the automated hacking kits are being sold on the dark web. They're being sponsored by state actors. So, these attackers are being armed with tools. They're being trained. And then the state actors are taking a chunk of the ransomware that they get for doing that training and enhancing their ability to attack us. So we may not be able to beat them manually, but the good news is that there's a lot of AI and ML machine learning tools that defend against the AI attacks. They require some implementation and cost to deploy, but those are there. The new tools are available. There are enhancements to the ability to protect your environment and hide it from the internet so that they can't even see your environment. And then if they can't see it, they can't be looking for vulnerabilities, and they can't be exploiting those vulnerabilities. They have to revert back to phishing to be able to get inside the network, to be able to get to a device. So those are the types of things that we're seeing from the inside. And as we mentioned just a minute ago, security orchestration, a lot of that is all AI driven at this point. So, it's important that, if you have the ability to add those tools to your firewall arsenal or add them in your business, I think that's a tremendous thing that you should do if you can. And for the small businesses, there are new methods of hiding your environment from the hackers, and that is a few $1,000s a month. It's not huge money, and that's a managed service. we hope that people understand that I got a guy isn't enough anymore.
Yeah, for sure. You know, there's a new player, or relatively new player on the market. Not sure if anybody is, is familiar with it, but to your point that you just made, there's I almost hate to say the name of the company because it brings back kind of nightmares of recent issues. So everybody knows, let me get this out of the way. Everybody knows CrowdStrike had a oops a little while ago and took down like half of the internet. But anyway, forget the strike part of it, or even the crowd part of that name. This company is called Bug Crowd, B-U-G Crowd. And essentially what they do is they offer AI continuous penetration testing. So this is like a normal pen test, but what I wonder about this, while it sounds good at surface or face value, what does that do to the performance of networks, globally? As people introduce this, I always say security is a thing that is absolutely necessary. But if you go to the nth degree, the user experience is horrible. And then with these continuous, I don't personally have any experience with it. I just know that they're a player in the space, but I wonder, what does this do to the network performance? And is this over the top type of scenario where, an occasional timed pen testing in off hours might be good, but I question whether or not continuous pen testing is a good thing because it's resource intensive. I just can't see that. What are your thoughts, Sean or Dan, on this?
Sean, you want to start first?
Certainly. I mean, here's the thing with cybersecurity: you have to be wrong only once. Only once.
True.
So it all depends upon what your worst scenario is. If you're a bank, your worst scenario is being hauled up to Congress to explain what you did wrong. If you are a podcast, right? And worst case scenario is they wipe all of your data and you have to reinitialize a website and redeploy all your videos. Then maybe it's not worth it. I immediately push back on anybody saying one size fits all. I think for some people, you have corporate America definitely has a, hey, I've been caught in a compromising position, so therefore I'm going to overreact for a very long time. Sony Online comes to mind back in the early aughts, right?
Yeah.
They got hit really hard, and they put a lot of, to your point, David, UX issues and made it very complicated, and a lot of people didn't want to use their platform anymore. So you have to balance it from, you want to maintain your business, but you want to mitigate as much as you can of the risk without destroying your business. So when it comes down to transformation, I think you have to have a balanced attack. This is why, and I know I repeat all the time, having governance so that you can come up with a happy medium and get everybody in the boat together. So when that sinks, you're not all alone. Right?
Yep. And I think that there's a difference in terms of penetration test and vulnerability monitoring of the new things that are exposed to the internet. That is not a, highly intensive, performance impacting thing to have going on. So there are firms that will look for all of the new IP addresses in your range that become exposed, and then do a quick, check on vulnerabilities of those, and give you that information on, in a report format, a daily format, like you said, 24/7. I would say that most small businesses don't need 24/7 on that. That's just my opinion. But, regular external exposure of, what do you have that's available for attack on the internet? And is it at least up to, current patch levels and monitored 24/7? Yeah, those are the types of things that you need to have. Do I need to go through an internal pen test on a regular basis? Yes. 24/7? Well, you should have the external hardening down. And of course, if you're patching and fixing and taking care of your blocking and tackling, then the rest of that, can come through. So I would say no to continuous internal pen testing, application pen testing, and there are a couple different ways of doing that, and that wasn't that's a whole nother discussion in terms of what do we do to safeguard applications. But from your external profile, I think that there are plenty of things that you could do to hide what you have from the internet, so that maybe that 24/7 monitoring isn't a necessary expense.
And for those people, I want to put an emphasis on this. For those people who think, hey, what I'm doing is so insignificant, security doesn't matter. Well, I can tell you, both my parents, who are in their late 70s, have been hacked. So, and they don't do really anything business-wise. So it isn't about the value of what you're doing. It's about the ease of which you can be hacked. And people don't realize that. And just because you don't know that you're easy to hack doesn't mean that you're not a target, right? So a lot of this, to your point, Dan, if you're blocking and tackling, you're pretty healthy. You've got a solid B, right, from a grade. Some of the stuff that you want to be an A+ student, well, think of that long term. Make sure that you could block and tackle first.
I mean, security is a process. It's not a point in time. Yeah, I got it done. All done. And I don't know any company that can put all of the security controls that they have in place, all of the process and procedures they should have in place, and do all of that within a short window of time. Usually, there's a roadmap of here are the high priority things that I need to get done today. I need to hide myself from the internet. I need to patch and fix. I need 24/7 monitoring. Those are the types of things that we want to make sure that people do. And then there's two other things that I think are critical for both transformation, AI, and just, in general, good security posture is you have a security team or a network team, or I got a guy, whatever that is, and you trust those people to protect you. And it's the CEOs and the CIOs and things that, yeah, we're good. Well, you have an accounting team, and at the end of the month, you have an accounting firm audit the accounting team. You have a security team. I don't know, at the end of the quarter, end of the year, maybe you should have somebody audit the security team. Now we find 3 different responses to that. I don't want anybody doing that to me. And that's usually people that are unsure of their stature in the posture assessments. The guys that say, I think that's a great idea. I'd like to find out what the challenges are that I have. And then the guys that know exactly what's going on, and they're like, I would like third-party validation so I can promote to my boss that I did it right.
Exactly. It's not about your knowledge. It's about your outcome. And I don't know anybody who has enough knowledge to know what to do in every situation. That's why most corporations have teams, not individuals.
Right. And in the mid-market, that's hard. I don't have 24/7. I might not have an application security specialist, a network security specialist, a security specialist, identity and access management. I mean, you could just go off the list, a cloud security specialist. I mean, these are all the things. What kind of AI guardrails are we putting in place now? Those types of people are not as readily available and are expensive. So we have to do sort of the roadmap of I'm going to get better over time. So that's clearly my recommendation. And then the final thing that people have got to start doing is building a repository, a network map, the ability to log into their switches and have several people have that capability and the passwords and the security strings to be able to do that type of thing.
Yep.
Some sort of policy and procedures and testing, and again, those are things you can build up over time, but it's just important that a repository be built that multiple people have access to. People come and go for a million different reasons. Yeah. And without that repository, you are left high and dry, and that is really challenging.
Yeah.
So before we get on to the next slide that I had advanced to, I want to make a quick call out. I put a QR code up on the screen for folks to scan. This is the SANS Institute. They've been around since like 89, early 90s. And so if you're looking for some free cybersecurity training, go ahead and scan that QR code. That'll take you to the SANS Institute, and they offer a couple free. I'm sure there's paid courses there, but just in case you're brand new to IT and just getting started, it definitely wouldn't hurt you to take a couple or take a look at those free courses there. But I'll go ahead and hide this so that we can see the next slide.
All right. Well, we sort of bled into this slide with the trust and verify, external verification of your security posture. And I also want to note that, as you improve your security posture, your supply chain, your clients, and the cybersecurity liability insurance industry can help pay for actually some of that in terms of increased marketing for your business, that you're ISO certified, SOC 2, whatever the certification that you need in your industry to be able to show that you've done your homework here. And then when you do go for cyber liability insurance, they are going to send you due diligence questionnaires. Do you have a process? Do you test it? Is it, externally tested? Is it, can we get a report or, an attestation that, you fix the things that are going on? When you provide the right answers to those things, you can lower your risk for them. That allows them to get better pricing from the carriers and in turn provide you with better pricing, lower pricing. We've seen pricing drop for people that have done a good security posture assessment year over year. So those are some of the things that I think are really important in terms of advantages and business drivers for adding security into your transformation or your AI project.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, David.
No, I was going to say, one thing that I'm aware of, especially going back to the AI thing, that I don't see a lot of security talk per se about it. I mean, maybe in circles, small conversations, one-on-one that we're not on a podcast, but just happening organically between people, is that, with the ability to clone people's voices and now with video, clone people's faces, especially for even just us. Anybody that's online has an online presence, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever, and that's pretty much almost all of us that exist in the cybersecurity world these days. Um, what happens when AI generates some voice check that bypasses it and is so good that it now sounds like it's that person? Or the AI imposter of Sean Ennis comes online, and because of this podcast, AI has been able to record a segment of it, and if you had a nice high definition camera, be able to get close enough to even get iris or optical recognition on somebody's eyeballs. And now with this AI replica, you can just use this in all kinds of really nasty and creative ways if you're, a bad actor trying to do stuff. What conversation around IT security and these types of emerging technologies and like, I don't know, I'm going to throw it out there and just leave it there, because the possibilities of this conversation just for that one question alone could probably go a couple hours.
Yeah.
Well, I think, some of that is really nascent right now and just starting to emerge. The second thing is a lot of people don't have those voice, face, whatnot recognition systems built into, certainly not in the small to mid-sized business realm. The enterprise businesses and the banking and whatnot, they've got big budgets to start addressing those types of things. I think that, in the mid-sized business, it's going to be real challenging, because people are going to call up and say, reset my password. And the people at the help desk know it's Dan, sounds like Dan, it looks like Dan, so maybe I should reset his password. But that all has to do with process and procedures and your identity and access management to say, okay, it might be Dan, but Dan's computer and Dan's phone are at these addresses and have these ciphers on them and have two-factor authentication. And so, there are ways to protect from that. But that's going to be a challenge going forward.
Yeah. I mean, what I see our audience is about digital transformation, right? It means creating new experiences, delighting customers, solving huge business problems. And the aspect that cybersecurity goes to that is, if you're trying to solve a big problem, let's not create one, right? You don't need to do the nth degree, right? You most likely work for a company, and that company has a cybersecurity process and policy. And again, those people are doing yeoman's work. It's great, right? If you don't have cybersecurity help, you need to be talking to a sourcer to do that type of work, right? But for people who are trying to make a change, it's going to be more about, first and foremost, alignment, right, Dan? The end of the day is there should be policies and procedures in place. If you're not thinking about it, you're creating a problem. And, I use this use case all the time. The cybersecurity team is not the bad guy. They are representing business aspects of the company, like cybersecurity insurance. So they could very well be saying no, because otherwise the company will be uninsurable. So don't treat your cybersecurity team as the enemy. Treat them like you would any other stakeholder. Invite them in. Make sure when you are putting together your project or your product that you think of them as somebody who can add expertise outside of your own, and you will just grease the wheels when it comes down to going production.
Absolutely. And David, to get to your earlier question, in terms of the transformations that are using AI, I think it's really important to have both the technologist an AI governance person and somebody that's probably an attorney at the same time to put the guardrails in place to make sure that, you know, your AI is giving proper answers, that your data is being sequestered in your own environment, that your users have pretty strict guidelines about what they can and cannot do with AI, and that we have humans checking what those results are, because, you know, Sean has his own opinion about AI and how smart it is.
Yeah. I think
usually a negative one.
I think for anybody thinking or considering facial recognition should limit it to either in person, and if you do it remotely, it should be bound to a assigned laptop or PC where that MAC address is potentially only known to the company. There's other ways of getting MAC addresses, obviously, but the point is, going back to that old mentality of, you know, something you have, something you know, blah, 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 blah. And then just stacking on what we've already done before into this new era of, you know, where we're going. So zero trust is quite an annoyance. It relies on a bunch of painful UI UX experiences for users, but, you know, the world's a changing. You get to change with it or get taken along for the ride, for sure. I think this is our last slide. Does anybody have any last topics that they want to cover or discuss or talk about?
Yeah, I wanted to pull out a couple key things on cybersecurity. First and foremost, I know we love talking about AI here, and AI is one of those technologies that is creating tons of solutions to business problems while simultaneously creating more problems that they can't solve. When it comes to brand security, you know, Dan, what should people be thinking about with AI and security first and foremost? Where do you think the industry is going to land on that as far as how much generative AI is going to be allowed in enterprises today?
So again, I think that is part of an AI roadmap, that you take advantage of the things that you can do safely first. So FAQs, answers to commonly asked questions, researching your parts databases or whatever the you know, business it is that you have, the things that you know and can test that AI is giving the right answers to the people that are asking for this you know, response, and that you are checking those types of things, that you have a governance model in place for making sure that you don't get drift in those answers. You know, AI just isn't good enough. Generative AI just isn't good enough at this point unless you lock it down. Yeah. The second thing is, you know, what we talked about before in terms of you want that to be a corporate AI model and not ChatGPT or, you know, whatever model you want to use that's out in the wild, because there's just too much of a chance of your data getting exposed to those models, and getting it out of a model like that is a big challenge. Just like, remember, we started moving stuff to the cloud, and then the European Union said, I have the right to be forgotten. Well, you know, my data is now in 4 data centers across the world in a backup somewhere, and companies were unprepared to be able to delete that data. Well, guess what? Your data out in the general AI, getting it to forget that data, that's going to be a huge challenge.
That is an excellent point. Excellent point. Is what happens when you spend all this time ragging your data into a large language model, and you are forced to restart your entire RAG because there's a set of data you must omit. I think that's a use case that I haven't really hear a lot of people talking about.
Yeah, especially if it's been fine-tuned, you're not getting it out. If you did RAG, you might be able to delete the data entry that was augmented in as a geeky answer to that. But yeah, if you're fine-tuned,
otherwise,
you're done.
Reboot, reboot, start from scratch, and buy NVIDIA stock while you're at it, because you're going to be retraining. So great point there. David, did you have any more questions for our cybersecurity expert, Dan?
No, I think I covered most of the big ones that I at least was either personally curious about, especially like that last one, to where it's just, I don't know, it just seems weird and scary. But now that you guys have mentioned that whole LLM thing, my mind is like completely tearing apart right now, thinking, oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, again, I don't want the conversation to stop. Sorry. We're all on LinkedIn. Reach out to Dan. He is a great collaborator and contribution to the community. So, feel free to reach out, just like David and myself. We love to hear what's going on in your world. Next week, I'm sure we'll have another podcast. So don't be afraid to log in and ask questions. We'd love to hear your feedback.
And if you're watching this on LinkedIn or YouTube, use the comment section below between Sean and I, and whatever post that shows up on. We always like to try to keep the conversation going. It does help, by the way, if you do the @ symbol and then type our name out, it'll help to tag us, to notify us. So if you have a question for either one of us, be sure to ask and put that information in the comments below. But like Sean said, look forward to having that information there. Dan, anything you want to add? Any plugs, how people can find you, get in touch with you, or follow up with any of this conversation beyond the comments?
No, I'm on LinkedIn and I'm always willing to help. I've done a lot of, little speaking engagements like this. And it concerns me, because I hate the attackers so much, that a lot of people are just not starting. They're not getting off that first hit to say, I should really do something about this, but I don't know where to start. And so, and I know this is going to sound strange coming from a security firm that does assessments, but assessment might not be the first thing you need. You probably know that there are patching and fixing you need to do. You probably know that there are things that are exposed to the internet that maybe shouldn't be. And you probably have protocols running on your network that you don't use, that have vulnerabilities. We'll take a simple example, IP6. Yep. If you're not using it, turn it off. Simple things like that. There are vulnerabilities associated with that. So talk to somebody, whoever that is that you like, myself, somebody else. Have just a quick hour conversation with them. Talk about the first 3 or 4 things that they can do first. Then we can talk about a penetration test. Then we can talk about external monitoring of your environment. Then we can talk about putting a roadmap together. And again, this is me, whoever you use to do that, start putting a roadmap together and that repository, because it is critical. So with that, I'll just, be quiet, which is hard for me to do.
No, not a problem. I think a good or great analogy to that is what Dan's saying is, if you have doors in your house that don't have any locks on them, put the lock on the door first, and then, maybe call a door expert to kind of help you out with that from that point. But anyway, thank you very much, Dan, for taking the time with us today to talk to us about cybersecurity. Look to it much. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Dan. You guys can find us online at transformationdigitalpodcast.com. And I appreciate everybody joining today. Thank you so much.